Bless our gathering here today.
Sure.
You're right. Oh.
Yep, you bet. I just think, isn't it beautiful to see the change of the seasons, the trees are changing, and beautiful weather, cool mornings. I just think so thankful we live in a place where we can experience that. So let's give thanks. God, we give you thanks for the change. We're just so thankful that you invented color that we could enjoy and to see the trees and just enjoy this time of year. So we're thankful for that. Father, we're mindful of the two firefighters that were lost in Kansas City. We're just, things like that are hard to understand. Just ask for your blessings on the family and friends of these families. And now, Lord, bless this food and for our time together in this gathering. Just thank you for everyone represented. Just bless our time and our day together. In Christ's name, amen.
And is it okay to hope that God is a Royals fan?
I forgot to mention that.
Well, this is our quarterly awards luncheon that for years has been sponsored by our Community Image and Awards Committee, which is kind of merged with our Ambassadors Committee. But it is a time when we like to recognize somebody in our community who goes above and beyond in recognizing people as they come into our community or as they are at kind of an entry point in the retail process, somebody that is a good greeter, just like the greeters you see at church or at Walmart or anything that just says, welcome, we're glad you're here, and makes people feel glad that they've come to our community. And we have a perfect person today to honor with that award, and we've asked Juanita Peckham to make that introduction for us. Juanita has Performa, is a chamber member from her organization Performa, which provides promotional types of articles. So we use, they do our bag sponsors for our book bags for Day on the Farm and for Ladies Night Out. And then, of course, also Pleasant Ridge Farms with the pumpkin patch and Christmas tree are also members of the chamber. So the Peckhams are both very involved and good members of the chamber, and Juanita is also very involved with the Convention and Visitors Bureau and has served on that board for years. And it's kind of in that behalf that she is here representing that group today. So Juanita, thank you.
Thank you. We're recognizing Mary Ann Yoakum. I'm sure several of you know her. She's lived in Ottawa. Since she was a teenager, she was raised in Wellsville. Mary Ann has been an asset to Franklin County for many years. She has served as a volunteer at the Visitor Center for 12 plus years, working weekends until she retired. And now she fills in as needed, plus the weekends. She greets people with a smile and knows what is going on in Franklin County. As a lifelong resident of Franklin County, she can help our visitors find their way around if they want to do the foot walk tour or help them locate a cemetery to check on family buried long ago. Over the years, she has trained many new volunteers at the Visitor Center. I am one of those she trained, and I love watching her interact with the visitors, and I feel she is a great first impression for our county. One day when I was there, I overheard a conversation between her and a lady that was very lost. The lady had left Springfield, Missouri, and was headed to Liberty, Missouri. She finally stopped for directions, knowing she had missed her connection. Mary Ann used some of the maps of Kansas City to show her how to get back to the correct highway. She never showed any sign of impatience with the lady, just helped her on her way. In the last 2 years, she's added another position to her volunteering. She's working as a volunteer at the Friends of the Library bookstore, sorting books, and I know she will be an asset to them. If you want to see her at work, come out and spend some time at the Visitor Center. It is considered one of the best in the country, according to the notes left in our visitor logbook. Thank you for honoring her service to Franklin County.
And Juanita, tell why she's not here today.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mary Ann couldn't be here today. She had knee replacement surgery on her left knee, and 2 weeks later her right knee went out and she had to go back in and have a knee replacement done on her right knee. She's not allowed to drive, and she had to go in today to get stitches taken out, and that appointment was already scheduled when she found out. So that's why she's not here.
Here's her plaque.
You got a plaque?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I love this. Thank you. It's a very nice plaque. Yeah. Thank you very much. We'll take it to her.
Okay. Certainly, certainly the Visitor Center is a central point of entrance to our community, and having a good set of volunteers there is extremely important, and we appreciate the work that Christy, who is there, she over here, champions every day along with her volunteers and her board. So thank you for them and for the work the volunteers do, and this is a very fitting recipient of this award today. I've asked Wendy Lee, our city planning director, to do a presentation that she had, and if I mischaracterize how this report came to be, you can correct me, but had an intern that worked on this, and it involved quality of life issues within our community. And it was presented to the city commissioners several months ago, and I saw that, and I thought it was very interesting information, and thought it was information that it ought to be shared more with the general public than just with the city commission. And so I put that in the back of my mind, and when we had an open date, asked Wendy if she would mind making that presentation. I think her intern has moved on now to another position, but the information is just a couple months old and it's very interesting. And so also, and in the same vein, Wendy is going to talk about a new team park that she's working on, and this is also very interesting in terms of what kind of play we need to be providing for our young people and our teenagers in our community. So, Wendy?
Well, hi there. It's almost like having a conversation at home, right? When there's not that many of us and we all know each other well. And John, I'll just always be where you can't see me because
That's fine.
Matt instructed me not to stand behind the pole, which would be my preferred alternative. Just in case somebody wants to see this again in the future, this will be an opportunity for them. You did have a clicker?
Mouse.
Just a mouse.
You can hold it though, you don't have to leave, you can,
Do what?
it might be too far, but.
Ah, okay. So our intern, this was actually a project that was done by the National League of Cities, and they had an announcement out about it that if cities wanted to take a look at this, they could use this tool that they had developed in order to compare yourselves to other cities. Yeah, I'll just move around if you need to. And get a sense of that through this tool that they had created. It's called Quality of Life Measure in Handprint Creator. Okay, when you see the images later, you're going to understand kind of what they were after, which is it's creating it in a way that we can have a nice visual of it instead of somebody just reciting a bunch of numbers and saying, okay, well, so-and-so is at this number and here's our number. It collects measurements of the quality of life in the other communities, as I said, and the lower scoring community, when it's a lower score, it doesn't mean that it's a poor quality of life. It doesn't mean that. It's just not an area that maybe is a strength. Okay, it's an area that you could have some improvements based on the measures that they collected data for. Okay, everybody's going to have different things that this word means this to me, but in each word, as I shown to you, they had multiple things that were collected in the data. There was also, as Pearl looked at it, we found some things where we thought the sampling had a little bias. It's in big cities and in states with lots of data collection. Theirs was a little more refined maybe than some of the more rural states and Midwest. And so there are some things where the only way the data was collected was on a county or regional basis or just a statewide basis. So then it would be hard to have that particular factor a determinant when you're looking at it this way. So I put a couple of quotes there. I don't need to read those to you. Those were just for you to read while I'm talking.
It's a left clicker.
Oh, it's a left clicker. Well, that's good to know. No wonder we're not communicating particularly well with that. Okay, so we, in the presentation of slides, and because people are connected to all different kinds of communities, this isn't the idea behind this was not to sort of say, look how good we are, and they're not so good in some various categories. So we hid the names. Well, I will tell you who we actually compared to here in a bit, but we're not doing it for our handprint is better than your handprint kind of things. We're just doing it as a way to understand ourselves based on our data and in comparison with some other cities. We used 5 cities. Some of them were on highways and other things so that we had some basis for that comparison or similar populations. But when we show it to you, so you can see they range anywhere from 9,300 to 12, well, right at 13,000. So we that was one of our factors, but we looked geographically as well. The actual indexes Oh, I should have gone back. But the one thing I was going to tell you about those 5 cities, we scored a 6.29 on a scale of 0 to 10. And of those comparative cities, we actually scored the highest. Okay? So if you say to yourself, gee, as an old educator, 10 is the benchmark. 6.9 doesn't sound good, but that's really not, it's not a grading scale. It's just what are the total points add up to be. I don't know if you can read these, but I'll say them. I wasn't going to, but I'm afraid you might not be able to read them. So so these were the characteristics that we're going to show you: vitality, earning, learning, social capital, after hours, cost of lifestyle, and around town. Within each of those is 8 to 10 or so individual factors. So vitality, interestingly enough, has things like water quality, air quality, primary care physicians per capita. That makes some sense. Adult obesity, access to health food, LEED certified square footage, Energy Star certified, and community gardens. So it's a mix of characteristics comprising vitality. I'm going to tell you about earning in a minute. Learning was pupil-teacher ratio, bachelor's degree attainment, high school attainment, number of community technical colleges, education expenditures, Wi-Fi hotspots, interesting, public libraries. I can tell you on the Wi-Fi hotspots, for example, whatever measure they were using wasn't accurate because our IT folks have been installing those. So we actually had to go back and look at that one and say, no, that one's not right. Here's a place where we can do that. And you can do that in some of the others when it talks about restaurants or something else. We could go with local data that we know and adjust. But some measures, we don't have that option. We don't collect that data, so we don't know it. So whatever they used is what we're going to use as the basis. Social capital was racial diversity, religious diversity, property crime, violent crime, farmers market, children in poverty, inadequate social support, median age, and number of dog parks. Score 1 for us. Because some communities don't have them yet. So that was kind of fun to see. That's a mix of things, again, that you wouldn't necessarily think of when you say, what's social capital to you? After hours, I'm going to tell you about that one in a minute too. Cost of lifestyle was food, groceries cost, median selected monthly owner cost for homeowners, median rent, utilities, sales tax, income tax, median income, and student cost of living. And then around town, the percent of people who walk to work, percent mass transit to work. Well, there we kind of took a little dive. Commute times, airport activity, percent carpool to work, percent commuting by bike, percent work from home, walkability and trails. Well, we did okay on the walkability and trails, but you know, some of the others you can just kind of guess where that is. So, again, here's the one that says we actually scored fairly well when you look at the overall average. If you look at individual characteristics, you're going to see that some did particularly well in a given category and others did well in another given category. And now I'm going to show you the picture because it's a lot easier to look at than the numbers. So this is why they called it the handprints. Okay? Because then they put it in this diagram and then they marked on the grade the various places so that you could see a visual. Lots more people can learn and retain information this way, so this is a great way to kind of convey. PowerPoints obviously have taught us some of that, but the handprint itself was designed really around that idea. So you can see from looking at this, after hours was our low one. Now if you looked and paid attention to that a minute ago, you're going to know we scored a 2. Okay, remind you 0 to 10. Earning, interestingly enough, is a 9. That's where we did our highest score. And I'm going to tell you what those things are. I'll go back over here to my page. So in the earning, I didn't read that a minute ago. Future job growth, unemployment rate, self-employed, knowledge workers, earning per job, and some other things. The after hours, this is the one that some, well, we fixed this. Well, it's not that. This isn't a fixed thing. This is just to make us aware of maybe some really strong opportunities, and particularly the chamber, FCDC, small business people, people who are looking to partner with someone else. These may be some great opportunities for us as a community. So these were arts and entertainment, recreation, any of those establishments. Okay, so now we have an additional arts establishment that's private. That might have helped, but at the time we did this, we didn't have that. Full service restaurants, like I said, we looked at that number to be sure it was right, because that kind of comes and goes and changes. Independent coffee shops. Unfortunately, this was one where we have had and currently don't have. Breweries and brew pubs. This is the one that is the strongest growing trend in a lot of places, and that's an opportunity for us. And I've had people in my downtown committee meetings and other meetings talk about that as an opportunity for us. But this is one of the places that really did score us poorly because that's becoming a big trend all across the country. And we yet haven't fulfilled that opportunity. And then local music shows was another part of that after hours thing. And this is also an indicator then, if you think about who's attracted to what things at what point in their life. Some things are more attracted to you at different ages. It's very important to you to have a walkable place if you're at a stage where your health and fitness, or you're a young person, that's important to you, or what your education opportunities because I'm bringing a family in. The after hours tells us that probably our 18 to 25-year-olds may well have some basis for saying, I don't think there's enough to do here. If you compare it to other around the country. Now this is the handprint of a couple of the other cities, just so you can see how they did. Clearly, city, whatever color that is now, because the coloring in here has shifted. I think on mine it's pink. But they're having great after hours experiences. Wow, they're really suffering in some other ways, right? Ours is a nice kind of blend all around, except for one category, which makes us kind of more well-rounded, would be a way to describe that. But that community is doing, must be doing particularly well with their brew pubs and other things. But their social capital, their diversity and some of that may be really not giving them the fullest quality of life that they may want to have in their community. And here's another one. And you can see again, different people did really well in some categories and not us. We're still that greenish colored circle there. And then this is the last city compared to us, which again, this one's actually more centered out too. This one is more centered than some of the other cities. And I'm not going to tell you which city is which. I will tell you the cities were. My slides don't match up. Parsons and Independence. Independence, El Dorado, Atchison, Winfield, and Parsons. So cities that you would say, yeah, some of those cities have some real strong characteristics and commonalities with us. So this is comparing us to the national benchmark for some of these characteristics. And we didn't put them all up there, and we put some where we were distinctly different in red. Okay, so it popped out to the commission and to the rest of us. The watershed quality is one that we know that's got to do with the data collection a little bit. But to us that meant stormwater, and it doesn't just mean that. It actually means water and some of the water implementation things that you can do. Primary care physicians, adult obesity. I mean, we just had a nice article about adult obesity across the state, but it is a significant factor here in Ottawa. That's hence a lot of the activities that we've done through the Healthy Communities Initiative, a lot of the reason that the city invests in sidewalks and trails, as well as even the dog park is a good opportunity to get out there and walk, and the playgrounds you can walk around them, and all of those kinds of things. I don't know how many of you seen the new trail started getting constructed this week? So the Flint Hills Nature Trail from First and Hickory is now under construction to the treatment plant. That'll be an additional amenity and ultimately go around to 7th, and then that trail will connect to the other, so they'll give the east side of the community a better opportunity to be off the streets if they choose to be. Let's see, what was some of the other? Children in poverty, we knew that. Our utilities is just a bit higher according to whatever they measure, which could be a combination of lots of things. It doesn't necessarily mean city utilities, just to be clear, since Dennis is in the room. But walk to work and commuting by bike, we don't have that. We don't meet that average either. Although obviously it's easier for us to do it in some ways. The distance is going to be shorter than in a lot of communities around the nation. So we wanted to just show that as a measure. I do want to tell you this little joke, Fred Searles moment. So Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson go on a camping trip. After a good dinner and a bottle of wine, they retire for the night and go to sleep. A couple hours later, Holmes wakes up and nudges his faithful friend, Watson, Look up at the sky and tell me what you see. I see millions and millions of stars, says Watson. So what do you deduce from that? Watson ponders for just a minute. Then he says, well, astronomically it tells me that there are millions of galaxies and potentially billions of planets. Astronomically, yeah. So astrologically, I observe that Saturn is in Leo, and this one I can't even tell you. This one was, there's a way to tell the time, so it's 3:15. Meteorologically, I suspect we have a beautiful day tomorrow. Theologically, I can see God is all-powerful and that we are a small and insignificant part of the universe. What does it tell you, Holmes? He's silent for a minute. He says, well, Watson, you idiot, someone took our tent. So I'm not sure that this tells you things other than there are some opportunities. There are some ways that we do really well as a community. We continue to seek for ways to improve the quality of life in all of our individual definitions as well as our community definition. Often when we define that at the city, it is often the things like the auditorium, the playgrounds, the parks, the trails, those kinds of things. Obviously, you can't have a great quality of life if you don't have good housing and you don't have a job and many of those other factors that they have to be here, they have to be present. You have to be able to put food on the table at the end of the day or your quality of life is definitely not going to rate up there with what you want it to be. So one of the things that we're beginning to work on now, well, we've actually been working on it for a while, and I talked to you about the play stuff, or I talked to some chamber lunch, I don't know, lunch and breakfast, whatever it was, about a year ago about a lot of the things that were coming. One of those things is the teen park, and again, we see it as an opportunity because we believe we have issues that need some additional addressing. And for teens, we think that's drugs, alcohol, drinking, and smoking. Our teens are significantly higher and growing in their use of these things in contrast to the state of Kansas where it is either flat or decreasing. Okay, so we're not talking about across the country. We're talking about Ottawa compared to Kansas. And that should call our name. Okay? In contrast to the state of Kansas, you see a teen park, but it takes enforcement, and it takes education, and it takes addressing some of the social issues, and it takes creating alternative places for people to hang out and do things, to maybe make a different or better choice. And so we believe this is one of those opportunities. But it's not the only thing. I mean, we have vandalism going on. We have people out at times of day when maybe we'd like them not to be. And then we have kids who are taking risks physically, and not that these aren't risks, because of course they are, they're risk behavior, that maybe could be done differently or in a location a little bit more supportive to that. The opportunity from the Play Task Force is, which is a lot about health, okay, and all these things affect health too, was just physical activity. And it also helps wear out students, right? So maybe they go home and sleep well and don't wake up at 2 and decide to sneak out. That there be some things in it, as we talked before, that have an element of risk. Shouldn't be easy, because that's no fun. Everybody remember who these people are. I just talked a little about this at Rotary yesterday and said, you know, teens are people we look at, want them to behave like adults, but we treat them like children. And we have to work on our behavior to them as we expect their behavior to alter as well. There's some challenge, they need to be seen, they want to be seen by each other. It's a good thing actually if we can see them, in contrast to where our current skate park is located, which most of us don't drive by. It can also demonstrate to them that we do care about them and we are willing to make an investment for them. We've demonstrated that to the 5 to 12-year-olds with the playgrounds we've installed. We've had folks, Richard included, ask us for when are we going to do some things for seniors, and we can do that too, but the teens need some attention. This is the location. It's kind of dark because of the way we're doing the scholars, but here's the Current Spirit Rail Trail. This is 15th Street, and this up here is Kansas Park. So this is some industrial buildings down here that you'd be familiar with. The sandbar volleyball court is just a little bit west or east of this picture. The idea is to relocate our current skate park amenities over here, and they're used by bikes too. So when we say skate park, they're used by whatever's on wheels that the kids feel like doing, and that's okay. Add a half pipe at some point, a pump truck. I'm going to show you that picture. Cycle. Yeah, it's a pump truck. I'll show you that in a minute. Parking, a shelter, basketball courts, a challenge course. I can't even read those pictures. Sorry. I'll just show you the images. It's more fun. But you can tell there's quite a bit of distance between the low part if you were driving over there. So when you're driving over there, you see that ravine that goes down through there? We need that. That's another water detention for us. And any of the housing. But then there's industrial buildings here. So, and then there's good retail nearby. You know, the kids can go be maybe less healthy and go get Dairy Queen, or they can go get a soda, or they can pick up lunch at Walgreens. So this is the challenge course that our teens kind of picked out. So they were involved. We actually surveyed all the high school students and got about 70–80% response rate out of those kids, maybe even higher. I probably should pull that number. It's huge. Within 3 days, we had almost all of them respond with what did they want. Number one thing they wanted as a collective group was a zip line. Now it's not going to be 150 feet off the ground, so as a parent, don't get excited yet. We're just talking something fun to go zip across from here to there. Not unlike what some people have if they live out in rural areas and have one in their yard. This is what's called a half pipe. This is the pump track. Okay, it just goes, and you can use, again, anything with wheels. So skates, skateboards, bicycles. The nice thing about this particular thing that's made in Arkansas is you can actually unhinge and change it, which is great for kids too. So we've talked about ways to do that. This is the challenge course, again, all upper fitness. If there's people who watch that Ninja Warrior show, I've not seen it, but it's a big deal for this age. That's what this is. That's basically what this is. And then of course we have 3 basketball courts and shelter and a graffiti wall. That was another thing they got excited about, being able to go and paint it any way they want. Which is just a slab of something we can paint over if we need to, if it's obscene. So this was a picture just of the Ninja Warrior stuff. It's a TV show. You can probably YouTube that and find all kinds of stuff. But it's just an opportunity for us as a community. We are going to fundraise. We're starting fundraising now. A proposal to do it in 3 phases. They're each about $60,000 a piece would be a round number. The first phase would be to relocate the skate park and do some basketball. And we're hoping to do that in 2016. There are naming opportunities that range from $3,000 to $50,000. The second phase we would like to see in 2017, but that all depends on funding. That would be the pump track and the half pipe. And then the third phase is the agility course, the picnic shelter, and the other kinds of just normal things. And the idea, particularly involving the youth, is for that to be all different kinds of teens using the park, not it's just their space or any of that. The other is, I just had somebody at Rotary say, oh, I'm so excited because when we go down to Forest Park, there's not enough basketball courts, and so I'd be really excited to use this. And I said, well, the message I really probably want you to hear is it won't be your basketball course. As we hear it, the adults run the kids off the one at Forest Park. So this will be theirs, and they'll have the privilege of running you off, should you be there. And then hopefully over time we'd add more basketball courts in the community, including down there near the one that we have at Forest Park. So that's kind of a brief update. Any questions? Observations, as Dr. Everett used to say?
Well, I thought when I read about this in the newspaper, did the word graffiti...
Graffiti wall.
Well, I haven't seen you put it.
I didn't put a picture, I just said it, yeah. Because it's basically you build a wall and we'll put some kind of lumber or something on it, we'll paint it, we'll create the palette, and then they'll do it.
I see. The other thing I noticed, and I would notice that because I think about them, is I didn't see real estate taxes on that other thing that you were putting there.
No, there's no real, you mean how's it paid for?
No, going back to...
Oh, to the quality of life?
Your job.
It was there, yeah, I believe it was there.
See, I saw...
Oh, well, probably because if they put it in the home costs, it may well be in most people's payment, escrow and rent, it would be included in that. That's probably how they did it, but.
Okay, so is personal property tax then in that?
They just cited that they did sales tax, income tax, and then they have housing costs. So probably not personal property.
I mean, whenever you get a loan at the bank now, it's escrowed into your loan, so most people don't even know what the property tax are because they pay it in their home loan, in their escrow, so it's just
It
part
makes
of
the
it.
payoff slower though.
Yeah,
Fact of the matter.
Yeah.
yeah, it's the Dodd-Frank Act.
All right, only old ex-county treasurers notice things like that. Guilty.
But there's a lot of people in this town who don't pay that tax down because they don't own a house.
Because they what?
They don't own a house.
Well, they do pay it in their rent
Well,
because their
yeah.
landlord
Well,
pays
that's
it
true.
in order for them to live there. So in fact, they do pay taxes.
But-
It's not directly to Franklin County, but they can't live there if the taxes aren't paid, so they are paying.
Wendy, can you show that thumbprint of Ottawa again? Yeah, when I saw that, I saw quality of life, or after hours, I thought of that quote by Ben Franklin, early to bed, early to rise. The other side is earning.
Earning and learning.
Yeah.
Earning and vitality are the particularly high scores.
Good.
That could be. That could be.
Wendy,
Sir.
when you brought up NECA in the survey data, I always like to take the opportunity to emphasize this because I think most of the people in this room would agree with it, but when we talk about societal issues, with teens, the two primary influences in their lives are peers and parents. And I think we should always take those opportunities to encourage and support proper and effective parenting. Because if it's not there, then the peers will be the primary influence and will have those struggles. And, it's not a new issue, but it's something I think any of us, when we have that opportunity to help another family or someone we know with that issue, we should, because it will make a difference.
Absolutely. The one, like the programming around the theme park we've talked about would be one of the suggestions we got. We presented that as our project when we went to the national conference last year. There's only 10 or 12 cities that get selected to go and talk about it and have other people input to them. And if you came to the mayor's luncheon, you heard one of those presenters, which was the doctor talked about brain development. He talked particularly about teens and the fact that they haven't developed their full decision-making lobes yet. And so having opportunities to be supported during that time by the community is incredibly important. And it's not fully developed until their early 20s. So you kind of go, oh, you're old enough to know better. Well, yeah, they've been told better. They may not yet know better. But one of the things we talked about was maybe involving guard people or other folks that are already interested in health and fitness, and having some Saturdays where they would actually help kids understand what they would need to do in order to be successful at completing that challenge course. It's not going to be easy. And so we're hoping to have the technology so that you could try it and try it again and check to yourself. How did I do better this time? Did I get through it faster? Did I finish it? I mean, at first you just got to try to get through it. And then after that is, how do I get faster at it? To really keep that challenge alive for them. So, any other questions? Thanks for your attention.
One thing I appreciated about this presentation when I heard it originally was these are all the issues that in the chamber and at CVB and Main Street and FCDC as well. These are all the issues that we're dealing with on a regular basis and how we can improve this. And so when we looked at the sum print, I thought this really does show we're a fairly well-rounded community. And Main Street's doing a great job in leading the communication or the conversation right now about what do we want Main Street to look like, what do we want after hours to look like, which is right now one of our lower marks. But this is a great time. We've got just a few minutes. If anybody had any comments you'd like to add to any of these quality of life issues or talk about areas that you feel the Chamber or CVB or any of the economic development groups that work for the city and community daily, I'll be working towards. It's a great time to maybe just make a comment right now. Join the conversation more vocally, in other words. Does anybody have any thoughts as you've heard this presentation? Well, don't complain at the coffee shop then.
Well, I would say that I think Ottawa's the efforts put out by those on the flowers, the plantings, is just spectacular.
I agree.
We don't have a landscape gardener or whatever like Lawrence, for instance, has. I don't think we do, although Stan Schisler.
Stan Schisler and Jane Creighton are maybe not professionals, but they really put in a lot of time and effort to
Well,
that.
Stan's getting ready to bring in a lot of stuff because I gave him a whole pickup load of pots and
Yeah.
things the other day.
Anybody else have any thoughts or comments?
I guess the only thing I would say is I was surprised that earning is as high as it is, and in fact, one of our highest scores, or highest in this, the way it was categorized and scored, because we also, just qualified for the federally qualified health clinic for free and indigent care. And so it seems like there is sort of a big disparity, yeah. But and I know that each of us get jaded in what we do, and so when we see that over and over again, I was just surprised by that being one of our highest.
And I don't disagree, but I know that there's whole sections of the state of Kansas, for example, that are actually far off worse off yet.
Yeah.
So we need to remember that while we have room for improvement and we seek to improve our actual wage, that's one of the factors that they have in there, just one.
Right. And I did notice that one of the scoring points was self-employed.
Right.
Which if the farmers, if our ag people, professionals,
Right.
They probably are considered self-employed. Sometimes they still don't have health insurance. So,
Right.
sometimes there are,
That's true.
You
And
know,
it could be
at
that
one
people
point,
are
but it doesn't
employed
necessarily cover
and self-employed, and it makes the income look right. But yeah,
Right.
from the health
Yeah.
standpoint,
It's just
they may not be.
interesting.
Yeah.
And Pam, what I've figured out over the course of my career is sometimes the requirements, like for the federal clinic, really have nothing to do with nothing. I mean, they have some requirements, but they don't necessarily translate. Some of those programs out there don't necessarily translate or give a good picture of what's going on in the community.
What I thought of when I saw that was, I know from our labor report that about 50% of the working adults here commute to either Douglas or Johnson County. But that's for earnings. You have a large population, in my opinion, that have no earnings. They have means to live and they have support, but it's not a paycheck. So I think that wasn't measured.
I think that goes to the after hours as well. That's not saying that people in this community are not participating in after hours opportunities.
Right.
And after hours is really pre-hours too, if you're thinking coffee shop. But that this is really just saying opportunity for those things.
Right.
And when you don't have the opportunity for a coffee shop or for a brew pub or whatever it may be, we know that if they want to partake in that, they're going to go outside the community to partake.
And I remember, this is not a definitive study. There actually is another one we've talked about, right? Wendy, the Pearl also.
Well,
The senior one.
Yeah, there's
We haven't
one on-
talked about that one yet.
yeah.
But
I'll put it in, but
it gives you a glimpse in a different way of how to view your community. And my guess is if we could take all these and overlay them, we'd see some real common intersections on what we're strong in and what we have to work on.
yeah, AARP has done studies as well. They are using a lot of the same basis data collection, but there's no way to go in if the data isn't correct. So then it just is, you can't do anything with it. And so we looked at that as well, and you can actually do that on their own website. You can just go to their website. This one is different. We had to actually pull the data and then Pearl had to graph it out with their proprietary stuff. But the AARP one, you can actually go on and look on their website and put in your zip. I think our score was 52 or 53. It's a range of 0 to 100, so we're better than the average city our size in the country, as far as kind of looking at it. But it is particular to the senior population, obviously, and the things that they want to measure for that.
There was in the Lawrence paper this morning, I noticed there was an article about the obesity you were talking about. They said, I forget what where Kansas, you may have seen that, but it said Kansas, out of 45 states, Kansas, most of those states were stabilized at their weight are lost, but Kansas was getting bigger. Yeah, we're still, I thought that was interesting.
And Oklahoma actually did a big deal last year. Their governors put them on, I forget how they phrased it, the diet or what he called it, but he challenged the entire state. They were the worst, I believe. And they were growing inches every year, waistline, inches waistline as a state. And they've turned theirs around, but yes, so everyone else has started seeing the light and we aren't yet.
Yeah.
Now, our governor there's an obesity summit later this fall, and you know, so there's things, and certainly the health department has done great work on trying to call this to people's attention. Needs more.
Dave, did you have something?
Yeah, I think we need to hear more from the educators in our community, not only the colleges, but the high school and the junior high, because it really does take a group of people to raise a kid. You know, one of your goals in raising kids is to get them to 21, but between 12 and 21, there's a lot of opportunity for them to screw up, and we really need to put our heads together and get some good ideas from each other on how to, for example, my wife was talking to some guys at the university, freshmen, sophomore, they did not know how to address a letter. They didn't know where the stamp went, or how to, you know, the 3 lines. It's just amazing what we take for granted, and so you gotta educate them.
And it's not only that, sometimes they learn that in school, but then they don't know how to post the letter. They don't know how to go to the post office, buy a stamp, and post it. We take those things as simple and for granted, but you know, as we become more oriented towards email and electronic communications, that is a skill that is slipping through the cracks.
Those handwriting.
Yes. Well, I think this is a very germane conversation, and it's the reason I asked Wendy to make the presentation. In my mind, it's the very reason why we come together as a chamber and as a Main Street and a CVB and a development council, so that we're working on these issues and that they're being addressed on a regular basis. And I also like to lift out that in this community we have a great partnership with the city, and they work with us closely and totally understand from the commission on down through the hired and management that this is important, that this is really what makes the community whole are these issues. So it's a great relationship that we have here, even though the county bailed on us totally today. That means we can talk badly about it.
You got that, Matt?
Yeah, but we don't want to, right, Matt? And in that vein, I just realized that I should have introduced, or at least had Emily Graves stand up. She's our newest city commissioner, and I'm not prepared with an introduction. Richard, can you more completely introduce Emily? Or?
This is Emily Graves, our newest commissioner. The commission had 7 applicants, 7. Or we had 8 and 1 withdrew, 7 applicants. Wide range, youth, which is Emily, up to the other end of the spectrum. And there was a series of questions. The commission spent 5 hours interviewing, okay? And when it came right down to it, Emily was the top choice of all of them. And I would point this out. I'm proud of our city commission because twice, they have chosen to go with youthful leadership. And we have a young governing body, and that is exciting for a guy like me, and I hope exciting for my staff and for the community, because it helps push us into really thinking more about the future and how we address retaining our young families and addressing our young families. So Emily had to work for this, but she came out on top, so thank you.
And Emily, would you just briefly give an introduction, tell them about what you do and who you are, and
May I tell you something? She is one of our outstanding Emporia State graduates.
I know she works at Ransom Memorial.
Yes, I work at Ransom.
Please stand up. So,
I'm the director of materials management, so I kid that I get to shop all day because I like shopping, but really I purchase everything, pretty much everything for the hospital, from the equipment to down to some of the little stuff like Q-tips. So I really enjoy what I do, and my family and I live here in town. We've lived in Emporia and Lawrence, but we like it here. We knew when we moved here that this was home. So I'm excited to help out. I've been volunteering for a while here in town, and I feel like this is kind of taking it to the next level. I can reach more people this way and make some difference.
well, let's thank Emily for her agreeing to serve our community. Let's see, we need to recognize our gold, silver, and bronze sponsors. Gold sponsors are Walmart Logistics, Ransom Memorial Hospital, and Hasty Awards. Let's thank them. Silver sponsors, Kansas State Bank, Ottawa Family Physician, Don Hardman Computer Services and Repair, and Don is here. And let's see, where did I leave off? Oh, and Prairie Star Catering, who we need to thank for preparing our lunch today. And bronze sponsors are Gulfport State Service Bank, Mike is here and participating today, Walgreens, Bartlett and West, and High Tech Relief Center, which is Jacob Eads. So let's thank them. And one of our gold sponsors is Ransom Memorial, and I never point this out, but we have such great participation with Ransom in the community, and we've got 2 city commissioners now that are allowed time away from their work to serve our community. Pam has just recently been on the chamber board. We have people from Ransom that serve on our committee, so they're not only a gold sponsor, but they also, through their participation, invest in the community. So they're great gold sponsors. In terms of calendar of event, next Friday, this day after tomorrow, we have a chamber coffee at East Central Kansas Aging and Disability Resource Center, 117 South Main on the east side of the street. On the 23rd, we have a chamber coffee for Wise Guys Construction, and we appreciate that they're sprucing up their building right there as you cross the river, and kind of an entryway to our retail marketing area downtown, and that's going to look a lot better. And then they're not chamber members, but just the fact that the old Dairy Queen building is getting spruced up, that's going to be a good entry point into the community now, because all that's going to be refreshed. And October 30th, we have a ribbon cutting for Papa John's, and hopefully tomorrow we have 50% off pizza because the Royals have won and they scored more than 5 runs. So we have a chamber coffee October 30th out at Papa John's. Does anybody else have anything going on that they would like to make everybody aware of here today?
Homecoming weekend for OU.
That's correct. Why don't you tell a little bit more about it?
Well, tomorrow, Wednesday, Friday is the dedication for the Gangwish Library and Gibson Student Center, and that's at 11:30 with lunch. And then, but you can come for the ribbon part. And then at 2:30 that day is the convocation, which will be the big formal celebration of the 150th sesquicentennial event for the university. Saturday is the game. It's a 1 o'clock game. There's a tailgate before if you want to come. There's a lot of other activities. David probably can tell us much because Nori's probably involved. A lot of people will be here this weekend. We have people coming from all over the country because of the various events. Some are already arriving, and certainly those years that are having their homecoming, their alumni gathering for their class, there's a group of them. But there are other people coming because this is a particularly big year. So you should see those folks around the community, and we hope you all make them feel welcome. But it should be a big event both on campus and off.
Anybody else?
Tomorrow at the hospital, there's the balloon release for breast cancer awareness at noon. Is that right? In the front parking lot.
And everybody's welcome. Wear your pink.
Anything else? Well, Christy and Juanita, would you please express our gratitude to Mary Yoakum for being such a welcoming citizen in our community and for the work that she does for your organization. And thank our sponsors, and thank you all for being here this afternoon.